It made me sick, but it was also one of my favorite moments in the movie. Hi guys, it's Jackie. So last night I saw Psycho Killer. So the screenplay for this was written by the writer of Seven, which has always been hailed as very iconic. I only saw that movie for the first time very recently, and it was pretty good. It didn't knock my socks off, but it was pretty good. I know it's kind of like a fan favorite for horror and thriller fans. I think it's usually considered more of a horror than a thriller. It's definitely more in the vein of horror. Psycho Killer, though, a lot of people seem to hate. Honestly, I watched it and I thought it was pretty good. Thought it was pretty decent. Apparently it debuted with a 0% and 22 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't care about Rotten Tomatoes anyway. You've already heard me say this in another video I did recently. But it was honestly not a bad movie in my opinion. It had good production. There were some beautiful shots in this movie, very intentional shots. I do feel like I need to watch it again, and yes, I did like it enough to watch it again, because it's kind of had me puzzling over it. After I finished it, I was like, what does it mean? What does it all mean? I feel like I need to watch it again and piece everything together after the conclusion. I saw this with my family, and I was like, what does it mean? What does it mean? I know there's something I'm missing. And they were like, there's nothing, Jackie. There's nothing. You're looking way too hard into this. There is no meaning here. It was just a silly little slasher. Which it did turn out to be more of just a slasher than I thought. I thought it would lean a little more heavily into the horror elements. Something my family said was that it was more like an upped stakes slasher. And a lot of times slasher movies, in my opinion, can be disappointing because, especially like now, after we've seen so many and the genre has been so defined, there's not a whole lot different you can do with a slasher. It's too formulaic. Now, while the premise of this movie might have technically followed a slasher, I do feel like there was a little more to it. There was some good mood, there was some good tone set, there was some good work done here. At times, the acting, or maybe some of the sequences, how they played out and how these characters talked to each other came across a little flat. But I do not think it was from the quality of acting. I think that this was directed in a very specific way and that it was almost meant to be monotone. That's my opinion, my interpretation. Right at the opening of the movie, this tone is set very clearly. When the event that takes place in the opening kicks everything off, the psycho gets her husband right there, right in front of her. And the shots in this intro are very deliberate. You can tell they are intentional, very well planned. Everything is very slow. The way that the actions play out up until the moment it happens, it's built in a very deliberate manner. And I kind of appreciate that. Usually slashers are very fast-paced, quick-paced, and even if they're not, even if it's kind of drug out throughout the movie and usually the slasher is revealed at the end, usually there is a lot of things taking place that drive the movie along and things keep happening. In this movie, things do, continue to happen obviously, but not in the traditional way that a slasher would. He keeps claiming victims, but the things that he does and the things that he stops and spends his time on are kind of different and hard to figure out. And it continually subverts your expectations while you try to figure him out and what he's doing and why. I think that might be why this was kind of disappointing to a lot of people, potentially. I don't know what other people find disappointing. His intentions do not really turn out to be anything super sophisticated or grand. He is just following his desires and motives to do something, to carry out a plan that he has. And this plan does make him a little different than just a slasher. He kind of diverts from claiming victims. But I think that this would throw some people off because they may not see his ultimate plan in what he was doing throughout the movie, or maybe how they're related, how these goals line up. Based on what he has been doing the whole movie, the outcome is meant to be sort of a twist and a surprise, but I think some people might view that as more of just out of the blue and doesn't make sense because it doesn't line up with what he has already been doing. I think this movie is very interesting in how, while I was watching it, my expectations were continually changing and I didn't know what to expect. He was very much a wild card, but a very slow and deliberate wild card. He kind of trudges his way through this movie just very slowly, just like the tone of the movie, making his way to his final mission. The movie is almost calm in a way, which is really odd. It feels calm and calculated, just like he is in the way he is acting. But Officer Archer's search for him and the way that she follows him mirrors his actions. The way that he is just slowly pacing himself throughout the movie and his crimes, she is not exactly in a frantic search for him. She is also slowly following him and finding things out and discovering pieces of information and studying him. Both character stories line up. One moment that really stuck out for me was the way that in one of his motels, he climbed into the closet and slept cuddled up to his weapon. That was interesting to me, and I could tell it was put in there intentionally, and I wondered what we were being shown here and why this was included. Obviously, he's just an odd and disturbed man who knows what he's thinking and why he does things. That's kind of the mystery of the whole movie, that Officer Archer is trying to... Well, she doesn't even care about that, honestly. Why would she? She's just trying to figure him out enough to catch him. But this moment of him in the closet with the warm yellow light on, just curled up in the fetal position next to his weapon. He is protecting himself, I think, by sleeping in the closet. But to me, this also kind of gives... I'm interpreting this as he is in bed with his weapon. That is his only goal. That is his only objective, is to wreak whatever chaos he has inside onto other people. Later, when we are introduced to the cult that he utilizes solely to get information from, he just uses them as a Wikipedia. He just uses them to uncover some information because they have a wide, secretive network. He is not interested in anything else they are doing. Their interpretation of Satanism and satanic acts do not line up with his idea of them, and he lets them know that. But they are doing things with each other that normally take place in a bed, and he gets rid of them. So, in my opinion, this is like saying to him, their goals, their motives, what they are in bed with each other is not the true interpretation of what he thinks it's all about. They are unworthy to him. But pretty much anyone is unworthy to him, to be fair. He just does what he wants to whoever. A common thread in this movie is that he steals pharmaceuticals. He steals prescription painkillers from a pharmacy. And he just takes them. And I thought that this had some sort of meaning. And again, I'm interested in watching this movie again and trying to either figure out a bigger plot or just have a more cohesive idea of the plot in general. It doesn't have to have a bigger meaning. I would just like to understand the story a little more, if anything, and why the leader of the cult was talking so highly of prescriptions as well, and what they meant to him versus what they meant to the psycho. The opening of this film, the sequence, also shows a bunch of red pills floating around, which seems like intentional imagery. It could just be setting a tone, a vibe, but to me, that image was chosen to be there, and they were red pills. So I'm wondering what that has to do with everything. 8chan is also mentioned in this movie. A number of conservative and conspiracy theories seem to be lightly referenced in this in regards to the psycho. A lot of people on the radio and speculators seem to wonder if he is a government weapon, a government-created weapon, or what his true goals are, or if he is being utilized by someone else. it kind of plays off of conspiracy theories, which is very interesting that that is included, and I'm still trying to figure out what that means. In the ending of this movie, he is taken in a very large brigade to a high security prison. He is escorted there, and when he gets in, someone welcomes him back. So he had already escaped from somewhere, apparently. And I guess that's when he started all of this. My partner was saying it was very unclear whether or not he was being escorted to a government facility where he would be held until he was needed again, or if he was just being put in a maximum security prison. I personally believe it was a maximum security facility. I didn't see anything else in the movie that supported the idea that he was any sort of government weapon. And as for how those theories and the conservative things referenced fit into the movie, I'm not quite sure. Again, I will need a second viewing. However, I enjoyed this movie. It was pretty decent. Was it like absolutely amazing? Did it totally blow my mind? No. But it wasn't terrible. It wasn't even a bad movie. I honestly don't understand all the hate it's getting. What is given and what we are shown is pretty decent in my opinion. It's just a movie. It's just a movie. It's not the most horrible thing I've ever seen. I think that maybe the very slow pace and the monotone, not flat, vibe might have not been for everyone. I honestly am totally fine with the very slow build up to the conclusion. And there was one part that had me totally gagged. Like, it made me sick, but it was also one of my favorite moments in the movie. It was so unexpected, surprised me very much. I gasped, like, oh my god. He goes to see a priest in confessional, and this is referencing his obsession with churches and religion. He starts to go into a story about himself, and the priest kind of actually is like, okay, what are we doing here? Move it along. Do you have anything to confess? I'm not here to listen to your life story. And after he says that, the psycho's like, okay. And he uses a very long metal pipe, a very long metal rod with sharp ends into his neck and then drinks from. Totally surprised. So if people didn't enjoy this movie because it didn't have more moments like that, if anything, I feel that made that moment more impactful. Those are my thoughts on the movie. I'll probably honestly have more polished thoughts on this movie once I watch it again and have a more cohesive understanding of the story and everything that happened and the way that it was made. My family kept telling me that I'm way overthinking it, that it's just a simple movie, that's it. And it probably is. There's probably no deeper meaning here. It's just that I need to see it again just to understand the whole sequence of events after the reveal and to put it together in my mind in a more finalized way. That's pretty much all I have to say of it right now. Just some initial impressions, thoughts. These will probably continue to change and evolve as I think about it longer. But I just thought that I would give my initial thoughts and impressions. Because sometimes I think that is the most interesting time to discuss something, when the ideas are new and not quite finalized and you've just experienced it. Thank you for watching if you watched this, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!